Welcome back to Catalan Soccer, guys. I'm Catalan Ben, and in this tactical video we are going to be teaching you player profiles. This video is for kids and coaches to learn all about strikers, attacking players, and how to play those specific positions. Check it out. Okay guys, so if you've seen some of the videos in this series, you will know how this works. We will look at the areas of the pitch that those players will play in. We will look at what they do in possession, what they're expected to do out of possession, and then the players that they link with most importantly and most often. So first of all, we're going to get straight into it with the centre forward or striker. Now a striker is obviously one of the best players to have in your team. They score goals, they create chances, and they do the most important thing, which is win the game. Now, as a striker, we are looking to play in attacking areas and in the final third of the pitch as often as possible. It's important as a striker that you don't drop too deep, and I often see kids who haven't played striker very much before dropping too deep too early and collapsing their team. They lose all the vertical height in their team, and it gets very difficult to create goal scoring chances or to even just get the ball in the opponent's half because the strikers are too deep. So if you're playing as a striker, make sure you're playing in this final third. The final third is going to be really important to receive the ball in, to create chances to score, but also it gives your team a way out and a way forward if they are stuck in a defensive position. As a striker, we are expected to play fairly central and narrow down the middle of the pitch. We are not expected to play too wide. The further wide we are when we receive the ball, the harder it is to create chances. And one of the most important things as a striker is to be in the box when crosses or through balls are played into that area. So try and stay in the centre of the pitch as often as you can in an attacking area, obviously whilst trying to stay onside. If you're not sure what offside means, just check out this video here that teaches you all about offsides and how to play against them and how to not get caught offside, especially when you're playing as a striker. So now let's look at a striker's job in possession. Now in possession, a striker has to have great movement. We have to always be on the move for the ball and trying to operate in little spaces between players and try not to be marked too often. So when your teammates have the ball, don't just stand up front with your hand in the air hoping they find you by some miracle. Make sure you're making moves, you're making runs, and you're giving them information as to where you want the ball and how. The better your movement as a striker, the more creative you can be and the more likely you are to either create chances to score or to score for yourselves. If you look at players like Aguero or Firmino or Suarez, the reason those players are so good as strikers is not just that they can score goals. Their movement is very hard to predict, it's hard to stay with, and it's very hard to stop. So the more movement you can make and the more clever you can be with when and where you move, the harder it is for defenders to play against. So keep your movement up in those central areas when you're in possession. Now when you actually get the ball in possession as a striker, your first job is to say, can I score? If you can shoot, if you can pull the trigger and create a chance to score, then you should do so. But you also have to be honest with the answer to that question. If you're too wide, if you're too far out from goal, if you've got 3-4 players blocking your shot, that's not a good time to be shooting. So that's when you need to be answering the question with a no and say, no, I can't score myself, so what should I do? I should either create a chance for a teammate, or I should just try and keep possession and create a different movement to try and score next time. So give the ball to someone else who can keep the ball, keep the attack flowing, and then try and get the ball again in a better position next time. Second thing that's important as a striker is to make runs off the ball into good areas to create spaces for teammates. Some of the best strikers in the world will make runs that will open a gap for a winger or for a midfielder or for a cam to attack into. So don't be selfish and only run when you want the ball. Make runs to try and pull defenders out of position, to try and create chances for other teammates, and to try your best to get players into areas they don't want to be in, like defenders or central midfielders. If they're trying to follow you into an area, that means they are leaving one of your teammates with space and time. So a very important part of playing in possession as a striker is making runs off the ball. Now, out of possession as a striker, what do you do? Now, a lot of kids will get this wrong because they will stand still too much. They will expect that everybody else has just got to get the ball to them. As a striker, one of your first jobs is try and win the ball back. So when the other team have got the ball and you're out of possession, if you can press and try and win the ball, then do so. Don't do so alone. Don't do it on your own where you can't win the ball because there are 4 or 5 players that can pass the ball around you and you're the only one trying to press. So whenever you press, you should always do it in at least 2, if not 3 or 4 players coming with you. But most importantly, you do need to make sure that you're trying to maintain pressure on the ball. The second thing to try and do as a striker when you're out of possession is try and protect the middle of the pitch. So if the ball does go into a wide area, that's not as concerning as the ball coming right through the middle. So if you can't run and press and win the ball, just try and protect the centre of the pitch in that final third, and try and make sure that you're intercepting passes and cutting off passes to the other team's central midfielders. Look here how in a striker's position we drop a little bit deeper than normal. We try and make sure that we stay close to our central midfielders and make it difficult to play through the middle. They will do two things. They will either play out wide, which is good for us, they're less likely to score out there, or they will try and play through the middle anyway, but because of the small gaps between us and our teammates, we might win the ball back. And then finally, your link players. Who do you link with as a striker? If you're playing with central midfielders or central attacking midfielders, then they're often your best link players because they will play through balls, they will create chances for you, and you need to be making runs for them to try and find. You will also link with your wingers or your wide midfielders or maybe even your wing backs because they will be providing crosses. So you need to make sure that you are getting into the box, you're making sure that you're near the goal when those delivered crosses come in, and we're making sure that we're making clever moves around the goal so that when those crosses come in, we will find ourselves in a good position to try and score, hopefully with a bit of space and time. So the most important links for a striker are your wingers, your wing backs, your centre mid, and your cam. Now the next attacking player we're going to look at is wingers. Now wingers have become very important in today's football. So when I was younger and I used to watch a lot of football as a kid, the most important players you would ever see was your number 9, your striker. They scored all your goals, usually played up front pretty much on their own. These days with changes in formation and shape, we see a lot of 4-3-3 formations or a lot of formations where we bring wingers into the attack. So players that have now filled those kind of roles, to give you an idea, are players like Neymar, Messi, Ronaldo, Hazard. It's quite a good list of players. Those players are so important because they provide width, just like our fullbacks and our wide midfielders do. They provide an attacking threat, just like our strikers. They provide great movement and great creativity, like our midfield players do. And they provide a little bit of everything when it comes to an attacking threat for your team. Now, what kind of areas of the pitch should wingers be playing in? We should always be trying to play in the final third when we've got the ball. We should be trying to maintain the width and pull defenders away from our strikers and keep the ball in a wide area if possible. If you get too narrow and too compact, you basically just take up your striker's movement. He can't make as many runs. You guys get in the way of each other. And then when we're trying to create an attack, it's easier to defend because the middle of the pitch is going to be crowded and difficult to play through. So try and play in wide areas and try and keep ahead of the ball in those wide areas out near the touchlines. Now, in possession as a winger, you should be trying to beat your man and create crossing chances. So if you receive the ball, try and beat your fullback, try and create a 1v1 situation where you can either get a cross, a pullback, or some sort of shot away for yourself. When your team is in possession, we are trying to make sure that our movement is clever and well timed. We want to make runs in behind fullbacks. We want to make sure that those clever runs are timed well so that we are onside when the ball's played. And if we can't create spacing behind because the other team have dropped a little bit too deep, then we might come towards the ball and offer passes and come inside a little bit to try and get on the ball a little bit more. But when you do that, it's important that we trigger runs around us. So if you look at a player like Sadio Mane, he always makes runs towards the ball if he can't go in behind. But when he makes that run, he pulls a fullback with him. And when he pulls the fullback with him, then his wing-back, Andy Robertson, will overlap around the back of him and will run into the space that Mane has just created by coming inside. So it's not all about getting the ball for yourself. Sometimes it's about creating a situation for your teammate to exploit. Now, out of possession, wingers still have a job to do. They are part of their press with their striker, like we mentioned earlier. They are often going to press the ball on their side of the pitch, not the opposite side. So if the ball goes out to the right back, then our left winger would try and press that ball and would try and put some pressure on it without going too crazy and just running it on his own. But what they wouldn't do is go press the opposite fullback. So if the opposite fullback receives the ball, it's not our job to press. We're just going to tuck in towards the midfield and towards our striker, and our opposite winger will go do that pressing job with the nearest players to him. So remember, you are part of the press, but you need to know who you're pressing and, most importantly, who you're not pressing. And out of possession, it's important that your winger tries to protect your centre mids and your fullbacks. So if the ball goes out to a fullback for the other team, try and make sure that they can't play down the line easily, make sure they can't just exploit those spaces in behind you, and make sure the gaps aren't too big between yourself and your midfielders or your fullbacks. Now, the final thing that we're going to look at is inverted wingers. Now, an inverted winger means a winger that is playing on the opposite side of the pitch to where he naturally would position himself. So if you look at a player like Neymar, who is right-footed and scores most of his goals with his right foot, he passes with his right foot, he actually plays on the left wing. Messi does the same. He plays on the right wing, even though he prefers playing with his left foot. These inverted wingers that play on the opposite side of the pitch create very good chances to cut inside and create shooting opportunities. So inverted wingers are very similar in terms of the positions that they take up, and everything that we talked about out of possession and the areas of the pitch are exactly the same. The only difference being that when they get the ball, their chances to create will be slightly different. Instead of going down the line towards the goal line and trying to create crosses on their strong foot, that won't happen as much because they're not playing on their strong side of the pitch. So these guys will cut inside. They will run towards the centre of the pitch like Sterling, like Messi, like Neymar, and those attacking positions they get into are then on their strong foot to cut inside and shoot. If you imagine a left-footed player playing on the left wing, when they cut inside, they are actually now on their weaker foot. They are less likely to shoot, less likely to score. But these inverted wingers can create some really good goal-scoring chances because when they cut inside, like Mo Salah would, they cut in onto their stronger foot, which creates a chance to shoot and score. They can still go down the line and get a cross in, unless like Mo Salah, they can't use their weak foot very well, but their strong foot is always there available for the shot, and their weak foot's there if they need it to create a crossing chance or a pullback. So there you have it, guys. Some very quick breakdowns on how to play attacking roles like wingers, strikers, or inverted wingers. We hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and found it useful. If you're a coach, show it to your kids. If you're a kid, try and put some of this stuff into practice in your games. I promise it will help. Thanks for watching the video. We will see you all in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done already, and I'll see you soon.